Good Monday morning of the 20th week in Ordinary Time. I'm very late in getting these done, I have to say. I don't know if I did last week's or not. I have to check. Anyway, today's first reading is Matthew. It's St. Matthew. It's a powerful gospel. I want to share it with you because it has some implications in regard to my own life. Okay, I'll share it with you, okay? He says, a young man approached Jesus and said, "Teacher, what good must I do to gain eternal life?" He answered, "Why do you ask me about the good? There's only one who is good. If you wish to enter into life, keep the commandments." "Yeah, which ones?" he said. Jesus said, "You shall not kill, you shall not commit adultery, shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness, honor your father and mother, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself." The young man said to him, "All of these I've observed. What do I still lack?" Jesus said to him, "If you wish to be perfect, go sell what you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come follow me." When the young man heard this statement, he went away sad. He had a lot of possessions. Okay? That's a famous text. I have to say that those of us, at least 50, 60 years ago, that calling was very clear to many of us who entered religious life, not the priesthood, but religious life. We took the vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, but poverty, that's the key line there. And you owned nothing, and you gave up everything you owned. And it was practiced. I mean, it wasn't just pie in the sky. But again, I was 18 years old. Okay, what did it's going to sound silly to you probably, but what I was giving up was my surf casting rods and my 16-gauge shotgun. That's what I was going to give up. That's really the truth, because when I think of that, I had a trumpet, and because I was a trumpet player, but that the order wanted. They wanted me to play the trumpet, so I didn't have to give up my trumpet. But I had to give up my shotgun, which my father gave me when I was 16, just 2 years before, and my surf casting rods, because I was an avid striped bass fisherman, and we used to fish off the shore and into the surf, and I had surf casting rod. It was custom made, too. There's a local guy who made these things. So I could lob a lure, the 2-ounce lure. I could throw that sucker, I don't know, 30, 40 yards, more than that. I could really launch it. We used to go to Cape Cod, and that's what we used to do. We'd go off the Nauset Beach and cast. Never caught anything, but it was exciting. They call walking the dog. It's when you cast out and your lure's on the surface. It's usually about 3 or 4 inches long. It's a good-sized lure because you're after a 30, 40-pound fish. And walking the dog means you had a way to bring it in. With the tip of your rod, you moved in such a way. It's like when a dog is on a leash. He never walks in a straight line. He zigzags. That's exactly what the lure does. It's walking the dog. The lure zigzags all the way in. And what you're waiting for is that explosive moment when the bass comes up and hits it. See? You thought we were going to talk religion today. Instead, we're talking about surf casting. But what is the religious element? I thought when I went into the outfit in 1959 that all of this would be in my past. I would never have it again. I would never. And I loved my rod, and my they gave me a bolt-action shotgun. Yeah, my brother still has it. Yeah, 60, 70 years ago, whatever, 60, 65 years ago. When we enter the outfit, these words, if you wish to come after me, if you want to seek to be perfect, sell what you have, give to the poor, and you'll have treasure in heaven. You gave up everything. You never owned anything. In your books or in whatever possession you had, whatever item you had, the expression was arusum, for your use. Arusum. So you could have a library of 100 books, and in every one of them is arusum. Say, well, what's the difference? You own it. Well, the difference is the rector could come in and take them, and he's not stealing. You don't own them. See? That's the truth. There was this sense, and what it was not meant to be penitential. It was meant to be liberating. When you don't have any possessions, you're free to go with the wind. And the wind here is the order. If the order needs you someplace, you go. You're attached to nothing. You're not attached to time, place, or property. Place or property. And it's the truth. I used to see it, when I really saw it evident, was our men that went to the Philippines or even the West Indies, but especially the men who many years before my time went to China. One-way ticket. Some of them are still there in the ground. Some were murdered. They went because that's what their calling was. That might have been the greatest era of our province, because that was the 20s, 30s, and 40s, because young men wanted to do the adventure of being a missionary in a far-off land like China, you see. I lived with some of those men after they were freed from prison and they came back to the States. They were stationed in New Jersey, and that's where I was stationed. It was an amazing, when you would hear them talk to each other, sometimes reminiscing, looking at old photographs, especially if the persons that they're looking at had been murdered by the communists because they were friends. They were Christians, but they were friends of the Passionists. Isn't that something? I thought about that a lot. Can you imagine if my friends, people who have loved me and been loved by me, were killed precisely for that reason, that they were my friends? What these men must have suffered quietly in their hearts. They were martyrs, both the people killed and the friends because of whom they were killed. That's a true story. And look at that text. Any guy who joined religious life, at least in our time, this was so clear. Sell what you have, give to the poor, and follow me. There was so much truth to that. You owned nothing. The expression was arusum. You could use it, but you didn't own it. That's the truth. I don't know if it still is. Tempo cambia. The times have changed, and I don't know. I've been living on my own for so many years, since when did I come back here in 89? Was that 35 years ago? And so what is the difference in my lifestyle of any other single person who's a professional, as a professor or a professional person, see? So I don't know what it means, but I knew what it meant 60 years ago. It's interesting. I don't know if in religious life today, even though I'm still I'm still passionist, if the life still entails that kind of radical dispossession. I don't know. Maybe it does. I don't know. I've been on my own so long. I just simply lived a life of a professional man, professional priest, professional religious, but a professional professor, you see. I hope I live them faithfully, but it doesn't have that radical element to it that it had when I joined the outfit, when you left everything behind, including your family and your friends. It was only my class in 1959, 1960 who were allowed to go home for Christmas. No one before. And to go home in the summer for a week. Not before then. So the men in the order that joined, even in high school, never returned home. That's the truth. Talk about an absolute vocation. You truly gave up not just your possessions, such as you might have had, but you gave up your friends and your family. And yet there was a paradox in all that, because in the end, while I gave them up at one end, I became closer to my family after I joined the order than I was before. My mother and father, my brother Pete, his family. I was a typical teenager. Everybody's got a better family than me. I remember my classmate Terry saying to me one day, "Ted, you have a great family." I didn't know. But as I lived the order and lived my life, I began to see and appreciate and love them. More so, having left them, I joined them. They became such an intimate member of my conscious life. I'm not saying it right. I learned to really love my family. So that's because I think I began to see them I didn't take them for granted anymore. I began to see them. I don't know if I said that right or not this morning. Anyway, in a way, what I gave up, I got back in spades. I gave an inch and I got a mile. I've had more love in my life, more adventure. I gave up my shotgun and I've hunted bears in Alaska. See, who would have guessed it? Who would have guessed it? The calling of God is funny in the sense you don't know. When you give it and you hand yourself over to a religious form of life, whatever it may be, the adventure is just beginning. Just beginning.